Fit, active, healthy, happy, enjoying the prime of your life. Looking out for your health and wellness, this is Health Talk with Fred Lowry from Lowry Drug in Statesville. Visit Fred at his store, conveniently located on Hartness Road in Statesville.
Good afternoon. This is Fred Lowry, pharmacist and doctor of natural medicine of Lowry Drug in Statesville, North Carolina. This episode is pre-recorded for January the 9th, 2026. This is our first broadcast of the year. We're exploring facets of your health and trying to keep you up to date and informed on the latest health information. This program is intended to share knowledge and information based on my research and experience. It's not intended to offer individual advice, nor does it replace a one-on-one relationship with a qualified healthcare professional. Your daily choices are yours and have more to do with your health than anyone in the healthcare field. My hopes are this show will empower you with knowledge to take a more proactive approach to your health. Some of my sources include, but are not limited to, various health news feeds, Epic Times, Mercola, news related to the Children's Health Defense, PubMed, and various Substack posts. There is a lot of changes going on in the world of health, particularly under the Make America Healthy Again program led by Kennedy. The most recent thing is the CDC's new vaccine recommendations. Apparently, the CDC announced Monday that they're dropping a number of diseases that it recommends all children be vaccinated against from 17 diseases down to 11. Children receive between 84 and 88 vaccines before the age of 18. And most of those are, the majority of those are before they're 2 years old. The numbers start diminishing as children get older. The new schedule number recommends vaccine doses to fall to about 30. It's basically a reflection of what other similar countries do across the world. And it's said that these changes would improve public trust and increase the uptake of routinely recommended vaccinations. So under the new schedule, officials will continue to recommend some of the vaccines. It's likely that some mandates for vaccines for schools will continue, although there are religious exemptions in some states, including North Carolina. Recommended changes will not prevent or are not intended to prevent the MMR shot, polio, pertussis, tetanus, or diphtheria. The H flu, pneumococcal, chickenpox are included in that. So those are all, the numbers may change, but those are all still problematic vaccines in terms of basically the chemical soup that those contain. And I'd encourage individuals, particularly healthcare professionals, to grab the package insert, go to item 11, the description, and look up the description of those pharmaceutical products. You'll probably have to look up some of the ingredients, as I did, to see what is there, but I think it will give you some perspective on that comment I just made. So the CDC now is no longer recommending that children be immunized against rotavirus, influenza, meningococcal disease, or hepatitis A. So the hepatitis B and COVID-19 shots were previously discontinued. The Hep B shot's the one that children get at the first day they're born. They will continue to recommend vaccines for what they call high-risk children. And this change would actually cut the amount of aluminum that most children are exposed to by 25 to 30%. Of course, this change is controversial, but if you're out in the world, and whether you're a medical professional or a teacher, someone in the healthcare field, and even individuals in the community, it's not hard to find vaccine injured individuals at this time. So it's definitely a problem. I don't think these measures are quite enough in terms of the changes, but we will continue as this story develops. The other big news I find interesting, the federal government will stop paying physicians based on the number of patients they vaccinate, and they're urging state health agencies to stop using similar financial incentives. So basically, and this is, I will say that it's my understanding that this is not all pediatricians' offices, but I do know and have seen the payment sheet for some insurance companies, and part of this is considered a quality measure, being that quality health care delivers products and services in order to prevent disease and illness. Unfortunately, sometimes that results in the creation of such. So basically, and this happened during COVID as well, is that there were agencies and offices that were incentivized to provide COVID shots. And the percentage of compliance had to do with the reimbursement too. So the higher compliance, the more people that were in the program, the higher the reimbursement. Basically, we're exploring or strongly encouraging more informed consent about vaccinations. And so, obviously religious exemptions come into play with that, particularly given the fact that many of the viral vaccines were grown in aborted fetal tissue. So Robert Kennedy basically is welcoming the new policies here. Mary Holland, the CEO of Children's Health Defense, said it helps put vaccines back in the category of every other medical intervention, where it should be, where basically, you're providing more informed consent and patient choice. So basically, this could be the most consequential federal policy reversal on pediatric vaccines incentives. And so this policy is designed to restore ethics and trust in the practice of vaccinating children. Of course, anytime there's monies paid for such things, it does bring up a question in people's mind. So it's basically eroding trust, and with the concept of do financial incentives distort medical judgment. I ran across an article on Mercola talking about unlocking optimal health, and it brought up a lot of thoughts, sent me down a rabbit hole. This was an interview with Ashley Armstrong, who has been on his program a number of times. She's the co-founder of Angel Acres Eggs Company. They specialize in low polyunsaturated fat eggs and have a nourishment co-op that provides various products. And this individual is a strong advocate of Ray Peat's work. Now, he was a biologist and a pioneer of bioenergetics, the energetics of biological creatures and that type of medicine. But he was a very well-educated individual, a PhD in biology, and taught at universities. His work centered on hormone biology, endocrine physiology, if you will, metabolic health. So he was really a proponent of this bioenergetic theory that maintains that metabolic rate and energy production is central to health and longevity. That doesn't really take a big jump to kind of agree with that. You know, our metabolism and our ability to produce energy has a tremendous impact on our health. He challenged the reductionist views of modern biology, meaning that what I call compartmental type learning, learning about the liver separate from the small intestine, or the joints, the anatomy of the skeleton, versus everything else. So it does help to learn in an academic setting, compartments and pieces, but then putting all that together is what's really the key. And I think that's really the thing that's sort of lacking, is understanding the relationships with all the things going on. I think you'll get an appreciation for that as we go further. But basically, he advocated that there's a dynamic self-organizing process driven by energy flow and coherence rather than these deterministic mechanisms. So there's a number of things about that. One of the things that this individual talked about was health being too complicated for people these days, and how all that fits together. And we want to uncomplicate things in order for people to understand them. Stay tuned for more health talk. We'll be right back. Welcome back to Health Talk. This is Fred Lowry. So we were talking about health and it possibly being too complicated for people these days. Armstrong says that her purpose is in the health space to uncomplicate things, to take a step back and really make people reflect, do these things make sense? And I think that's a really good question, because we come up with, there's all kinds of things that are sold and marketed to us, and at the time it sort of does make sense. It's a solution to perhaps a problem that we have, but is it the right first step? Is it a good long-term solution? A great example of that, if you have a runny nose and you take an antihistamine, that may solve the problem. But what was the underlying cause of that? Do you have, some allergy? Were you around some mold, or you have a food allergy, dairy allergy, wheat allergy, whatever it is? So it doesn't really solve the problem, and whatever that allergy does has other things that happens in terms of related to your body, and that runny nose is just one symptom of all the things going on in that space. So the one example they used was you don't need to go to the cold ice water baths to get optimal health. That doesn't make sense. So we don't have to go to these extremes to achieve health, nor I don't really think that that would be the answer. She also brought out that we have a lot of things working against us: our food system, the environment, all the things that we know about, but I prefer to think about more what is working for us instead of focusing on that negative. I think people are drawn towards extremes because of a quick fix promise. and that's enticing, but maybe doesn't have the right long-term outcome. And so, as we look at these things, obviously maybe switching away from the standard American diet, abbreviation SAD, you know, and looking more at what can improve our health. I promise you that good hydration, good clean water, and diet are probably two of the main things that are foundational, fundamental to your health. And from looking at what we might call molecular biology, the biology of the chemistry of the body, we're creating energy in the mitochondria, and so every cell of the body requires that energy production to be optimal. So that goes back to that Ray Peat's work in that. So one of the things that she brings out is that it's maybe believed that glucose is an inferior fuel to dietary fat. So a lot of times there's blame on fat, there's blame on sugar, and obviously in the keto diet, which we're going to talk about a little more later, it's mostly protein and fat versus carbs. Actually, carbs are absolutely necessary. Obviously, we understand that processed foods aren't good for you, but most of the blame is put on sugar related to that. Could be a problem, but the seed oils do most of the harm. Now, we've talked about that in the past. That's the canola, the corn oil, the vegetable oil, the soy, that type of things. Obviously, high amounts of refined sugar isn't healthy, but even refined sugar is not as unhealthy as these polyunsaturated type of fats. So in Pete's work, he said it was clear that eliminating these seed oils was necessary for optimal health. Now they get into this thing about the omega-3s being problematic. That would be the fish oils, but the real problem is that these seed oils and many of the fats in meats, particularly because the animals are fed a lot of these grains, have these polyunsaturated fats that are known as omega-6s, and those are pro-inflammatory. They cause inflammation when they're out of balance with omega-3s. So if you're not getting the balance there, when things get shifted too much to one side, that's where the damage really happens. It's not that they're bad necessarily in small amounts, but it can definitely be a problem if it's out of balance with the other ones. So these type of fats, pro-inflammatory, they cause vasoconstriction, elevated blood pressure, and blood clots. Omega-3s are the opposites. They're anti-inflammatory. They dilate the blood vessels, and they're anti-aggregatory, which means they don't allow blood cells to accumulate. So I think that's one of the pieces that maybe isn't entirely accurate, but what happens is if you eat too much dietary fat, then your body ends up favoring the fat metabolism at the expense of glucose. Burning glucose in your cells and the mitochondria is a great way to produce energy. So the thing that this article came into was measuring body temperature today as a measure of your metabolism. And this is an old concept really from some of the Broda Barnes work. He was a physician. I'm going to talk more about him later, but he was an advocate of promotion of thyroid function And so one of the ways he measured metabolism was measuring body temperature first thing in the morning. So basically, you wake up and take your temperature, and if it's low at a certain level, then it's an indicator of low metabolism, which is also an indicator of suboptimal thyroid production, or perhaps low thyroid production. So lowering metabolic rate is a survival mechanism for humans when energies are low. So one of the things that we're overfed and undernourished because we don't have a lot of the micronutrients, and so when your body slows down the metabolism, it's basically a way of staying alive. You might liken it to animals that hibernate. If they had a higher metabolic rate, they would not make it through the winter. So what happens is when you have a low metabolic rate, your body temperature, you're cold, you're in the survival, not thriving space, if you will. And so one of the things that this Dr. Ray Peat said his goal was to keep the metabolic rate up. He said that there's many ways to do this, and so it's not just one thing really, which is, I think, a good idea. But using these simple markers is much easier for the average person to measure body temperature, to assess their metabolic health. But they point out that just an arbitrary, so let's keep our carbs below 10 grams or whatever, is just not just doesn't fit everybody's situation, and there's so many of these suggestions out there, and so hopefully as we go through this, you'll understand a little bit of the complexity of it, and also things that you can do to improve the situation. So obviously, first step is to ditch the processed foods, eat real food, and that's one of the questions that you can ask yourself. Some people don't advocate eating nuts, as an example, but it is a real food. And the problem comes in when you eat too many nuts. So small amounts of nuts. If you were in a hunter-gatherer situation, you probably wouldn't consume a lot of walnuts because of the time and energy it took to open and harvest those. So we also can get into how food's grown, the nutrition. Most of our dairy is genetically modified ingredients. U.S. cheeses are made with GMO rennin, which is not like animal rennin, that enzyme. Olive oil has some issues with it as it's blended with a lot of the other type of seed oils. Energy production and gut health go hand in hand. So the microbiome is huge about this. It just amazes me how diverse the gut bacteria is, all the things it does, and how you feed that gut bacteria dictates a lot of the choices you make relative to your diet. So when your gut's not working as it should, you can also create a lower metabolic rate. So when your gut slows down, its ability to process and clear out waste becomes ineffective. As that food lingers longer, it encourages more harmful bacteria to grow endotoxins from that bacteria. Stay tuned for more health talk.
Doctor, my eyes have seen the years and the slow parade of fears.
Welcome back to Health Talk.
Now I
This is Fred
want
Lowry,
to understand.
pharmacist and doctor of natural medicine. Lowry Drug on Harkness Road was established in 1959. We were a traditional family pharmacy with a state-of-the-art compounding laboratory. We offer a full line of medical equipment and supplies, including CPAP, scooters, lift chairs, and oxygen. We also have a full line of supplements, nutritionals, herbs, homeopathics, essential oils, and more. Come see us. We're just talking about energy production and the gut, and how slowing down the gut's ability to process and clear out waste effectively is an issue. So people with constipation, that's a health goal to clear up, just because it's a once every couple of days situation. Doesn't might be normal for you, but it's not optimal. And then I think about, as we're talking about this, when the gut slows down, which is one of the mechanisms for these GLP-1s, what are the other things that are happening to the body? So there are a lot of key contributors to poor mitochondrial function. One of the things I think about from past and now present is the spike proteins that damage the cell membranes of the cells and the organelles in the cell, the mitochondria. So that's a toxin. There's plenty of other toxin-related things, but they're contributors to problems with energy production. The seed oils, the linoleic acid, is increasingly being implicated in disrupting cellular processes. Estrogen-like compounds, BPA found in plastics, xenoestrogens, things that mimic estrogen in nature, that is a threat to the body as well at so many levels. The endotoxins that are released from pathogenic gut bacteria. Anytime you kill bacteria, you're losing whatever is in that cell. It becomes a a waste product, be it small, but a lot of those together do accumulate, and your body has to deal with that. Electromagnetic fields, the unseen contributor to many health issues as well. So all of these have mechanisms relative to how the body works and produces energy. And one of the common things is that these things cause an influx of calcium into the cell. Now that's another mechanism of muscle problems related to statins, is they cause an influx of calcium inside the cell, and that causes some degradation. So statins really could be classified as a metabolic poison as well. So you've heard about leaky gut syndrome. That's where the gut integrity becomes loose, if you will, and allows things to migrate into the bloodstream more quickly. And now the body has to deal with that. The liver has to clean that up. That can, in fact, also relate to bacteria that end up in the kidney and create urinary tract infections. But also, as we are eating, let's just say you're eating a lot of protein, you're not getting the dietary fiber. Fiber is really important for making short-chain fats, such as butyrate, which is a fuel source to help repair the gut. As you can see, there's a lot of things, a lot of pieces to this puzzle. Now, if we go back to this concept of thyroid related to metabolism, your thyroid, if you take a look at the symptoms of problems with the thyroid, fatigue, weight gain, cold intolerance, dry skin, constipation, depression, muscle weakness, joint pain, hair loss, puffy face. All of these things, can relate to thyroid. Now, I will tell you that just because you have some of these symptoms, it may not be thyroid, because there are some illnesses that create the same symptoms, but they have a different cause. And that's important to know. That by the same token, a particular toxin can cause certain symptoms, but that doesn't mean that it causes the same symptoms in everyone. So other thyroid-related things, include memory impairment, slower heart rate, heavier or irregular menstrual periods, decreased sweating, a hoarse voice, increased sensitivity to cold, mental fatigue, brain fog, irritability, swelling in the limbs, fingers swell, which, by the way, a lot of times fingers swell relative to wheat consumption. So that they get puffy. It's not necessarily fat; it's fluid retention. There's just a lot of things: blood pressure, acid reflux. All of these things can play a role in this. Now, Dr. Broda Barnes, physician, well-educated individual, professor of medicine. He specialized in endocrine dysregulation, particularly low thyroid. He had a degree in chemistry, a PhD in biochemistry. He felt that hypothyroid was significantly undiagnosed in this country, and I think it probably still is, particularly what we would call subclinical hypothyroidism, which is maybe it's just not enough. Maybe you fall into the blood range for TSH. You fall into that range of being normal, but you've got symptoms and certainly not normal for you. So he did like that temperature test. We're going to go over the parameters of that. His information was published in journals. Maybe didn't really completely catch on, but he was a big advocate of desiccated thyroid, like Armour thyroid, MP thyroid, over the synthetic thyroid hormones, Synthroid, levothyroxine. He felt it provided better symptoms due to the presence of additional hormones like T3 and T2 and T1. Now, that most of you may not have heard of that. T4 is levothyroxine, that's thyroid hormone. It converts to T3, that is supposed to be the active part of that. But obviously, as it degrades, the number indicates the number of iodines on the tyrosine, which is the amino acid. So as it degrades, it's likely that there becomes a T2 and a T1, and we have no idea really what that may do. But he also believed that this desiccated thyroid was superior to just giving T4, which makes sense. He also believed that most hypothyroid patients had some adrenal insufficiency related to that. So he treated that. This is pretty interesting. He did write several books that you could access about hypothyroidism. His views are still somewhat controversial. Stay tuned.
Doctor, my eyes have seen the years.
Welcome back to Health Talk. I ended up saying that Broda Barnes' views were controversial. That's only in mainstream medicine, really. They are supported by integrative medicine, and I will also make the comment, much to my disappointment, at least some of the things I know related to hormone replacement are still taught in the School of Medicine. The same things that were taught in the 70s and probably before that. So there's not, at least in that area, there's not really an update in internal medicine and those type of therapeutics. So Broda Barnes' holistic approach with that temperature model was you could use take the thermometer under the tongue, just before you get up, before you get out of bed. If you're doing the armpit method, you add 1 degree for that, and a reading below 97.8 degrees, 97.8, is considered an indicator of hypothyroidism, while temperature above 98.2 might suggest hyper, too much. Keep in mind our marker is generally considered 98.6 to be normal. So there's some fluctuation there. So I think it's worth mentioning that sometimes people end up with being hyperthyroid before they go hypothyroid. And that can actually be due to people with hyperthyroidism, problems with liver function. Constipation can contribute to that, the inability to break down and eliminate excess thyroid hormone that in the liver. So something to consider, another piece of that puzzle. As I said, he was particularly fond of the Armour thyroid, which is a porcine thyroid gland. It's a glandular made from pigs, and it contains both the T4 and the T3, and it's generally considered 80% of the T4 and 20% of the T3. The T stands for tyrosine. That's an amino acid that basically can hold iodine on that. So that is what the thyroid makes in response to TSH, thyroid stimulating hormone. So the brain tells the body, I need more. If it says I need more thyroid, the TSH may go up. Many patients, and many of the ones I know, just do better with their symptoms and their energy levels on this desiccated thyroid. In addition, he recommended relatively low carbohydrate diet, which is, his marker was 50 grams of carbohydrates with 70 grams of protein, 90 grams of fat, emphasis on eggs, meat, fish, non-starchy vegetables, butter, fatty dressings, fruit, all those things. He did like to recommend a B complex, which I think is a good thing. And one other thing he focused on was iodine supplementation in case that the individual didn't have enough iodine to make thyroid hormone on their own. Kelp is in many products is a source of iodine. So he believed that this hypothyroid had to do with a lot of underlying conditions: heart disease, cancer, depression, arthritis, diabetes, that type of thing. As we talk about all these components, particularly related to maybe the keto diet, in terms of markers, how do you determine, how much of a particular food group, I guess, protein, fat, carbs, to consume? in my pharmacy career, I used to compound TPNs, which is a sterile product, total parenteral nutrition. Basically, we're feeding patients by vein, and the standard for those formulas was basically 60% glucose, 20% protein, and 20% fats. That may have changed because it's been quite a number of years, but basically you're looking at, say, for glucose, 4 grams per kilo on the low end, 1.5 grams per kilo. For protein, fats is one gram. A lot of the recommendation for protein now is a gram per pound. But just to give you an idea of that whole thing, from the clinical perspective, is that we were doing for a 180-pound individual over 300 grams of glucose, 127 grams of protein, and about 80 grams of fat. So that's something kind of interesting, in that, a lot of these individuals obviously probably weren't, also were not highly mobile and active as well. Obviously, you need energy to heal, so there's a piece of that puzzle there. So one of the other things related to iodine or inadequate iodine is that iodine's in the chemical category of what we call halogens, and that includes bromine and chloride, fluoride, all those things. And so in the body, those chemicals, including your chlorinated water, can occupy the same sites that iodine may occupy in the body. Certainly fluoridated water is part of that. Bromine, which is used in breads a lot of time. So all these other halogens, if you will, they compete with the iodine in the body. So that makes this a little bit of a double whammy, if you will. And so, if you're measuring iodine in urine, then it certainly would not account for all the other stuff. One cheap test that some people advocate, I think it's worth looking at, is an iodine patch test, which basically you take some topical iodine, not the clear, but the orange color, paint maybe a 3 by 3 inch square on the skin in a place that's not going to be rubbed by clothing, perhaps. You leave it undisturbed for 24 hours, and if it disappears, it's an indicator of iodine deficiency. The idea is that the iodine will be absorbed because it is needed. But I have seen where a lot of this iodine disappeared in as little as 6 hours. So that's another thing to consider. There's a doctor, I think he's still alive, Mark Starr. He's an integrative medicine doctor that has also written a number of books about hypothyroidism. And he was talking about how synthetic thyroid doesn't have the right spin or the right energetics, making the natural thyroid hormone more important, and it has the right spin. But that takes us down the rabbit hole of something called reverse T3, and it's part of the way the body conserves energy. So if it needs to conserve energy, it makes the reverse of T3. It's supposed to be the active thyroid in a way to conserve energy. And so it's like the mirror image. It looks like it fits in the same spots, but it doesn't have the same function. So it's not, it's not doing what you need. And sometimes the lab tests don't show that. And also, if there's a lot of reverse T3, then the brain may say, we've got enough of this. We don't need more of that. So you could have a low TSH, the thyroid stimulating hormone that tells the body to make more thyroid, because you've have a lot of this reverse T3. As you can see, there's a lot of pieces of this, and I did not finish all the information here, and we're running out of time. But I'm going to pick back up on this when we come back next week and talk about how the keto diet has an influence on this thing. So as we started out talking about things and making things simple, you can see that the body is very complex, and in a way that there are a lot of pieces to this puzzle. But fundamentally, keep it simple: good, clean water, clean diet as much as possible, stay away from ultra-processed foods. All of that can give you a better start and improvement in your health perspective. And you know, in this day and age, as we know, this is a big deal. You know, it's very important to stay healthy so that you can enjoy the life that you've been given. Thanks for tuning in to Health Talk. I hope you have a great weekend. Come see us at Lowry Drug in Statesville on Hartness Road.